Does anybody else find it weird that mainstream media and Democrats all repeat the same lines at the same time, but then they tell us that mainstream media is independent?
If he intends to ignore what the courts say, this country will potentially find ourselves in a constitutional crisis.
That is a constitutional crisis. That is a crisis for our democracy.
Most serious constitutional crisis.
Clearest sign that we might be creeping towards a constitutional crisis.
It's a constitutional crisis.
Basically, we're in a constitutional crisis, even though there isn't a complete, clear definition.
It's a constitutional crisis. Suggests that they are on the cusp of a constitutional crisis.
Democrats to keep calling it a crisis, a constitutional crisis.
You really do have a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
The constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
That is a genuine constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
There's this whole question of, is it a constitutional crisis? Yes, it is. But we can't just keep saying constitutional crisis, constitutional crisis. Nobody knows exactly what that means.